people, 20 people, especially if, as you say, they were leading the occupation of the building?
Yeah, so, I think it's not difficult to say that we know certain individuals that are well known to us who have been involved in what we assess to be training, especially around a change in tactics. We're in the process of sorting through all of the data that we recovered last night. So sifting through the names of everybody and were they affiliated with a school or not, that takes time, and we want to make sure that we're giving you accurate information. But I think the larger point is really important, which is this is not about students expressing ideas. It is about a change in tactics that presents a concern and a normalization and mainstreaming of rhetoric. And I'm not just talking about language, I'm now talking about tactics, and that's what shifted our response yesterday. But a normalization and mainstreaming of rhetoric associated with terrorism that has now become pretty common on college campuses, right? You see people wearing headbands associated with foreign terrorist organizations. This happened in October when you had a viral TikTok reissuing of Osama bin Laden's 2002 letter to America. So that's a larger concern. It's separate from what happened yesterday, but they're related. We do not want ideas, we do not want campuses, which are where people are supposed to be learning and being in a conducive environment for all of the things that we do in schools, being turned into places where people are committing vandalism, property damage, and committing crimes.
But if you know who the leaders are, you said yesterday at a press conference, it would be repeated on national television. Why not say 3, 4, 5 people? The mayor said last week that he questioned why all the tents were the same when they aren't. It's this question of outside actuators. It's been a prevalent message being shared by the NYC and City Hall. So can you offer us any more insight into it beyond just a lock that they sold to Columbia students as a bike lock?
Let me be very clear. This is an ongoing, evolving investigation. The Intelligence Division must be extremely sensitive about information they release. Our goal is not to ensure you get a good story. Our goal is to make sure that we tell the right story. There are people that we have been watching in organizations that are not part of the campus. We've been very clear. There are individuals and organizations that are not students. We're seeing a shift in tactics that are being used, destruction of property, destructions of cameras, and so many other things. We saw paraphernalia and pamphlets about disruptions. There's a series of things that the Intelligence Division has brought to make a determination that there's an influence going on right now. Now, we know that people would rather us put in a neat little bow, but that is not the way law enforcement operate, and we're not going to release any information that is too sensitive to release at this time. We know there are outside individuals that have been influencing this issue.
And Katie, the second part of your question when it comes to the press. So just take you back through yesterday. We released 2 messages to the press right before this operation was taking place, that if you're a member of the press and you wanted to get some access and get some shots, to come and meet a DCPI representative on 114th Street, and then we'll work it out with you from there. The reason why we have our own cameras inside of there is because we have police officers. They have tactical gear, they have helmets, they have vests, and we don't know what to expect when we go through these doors. So we cannot just take the press and go hitting doors with ESU. It doesn't work like that. When we were very transparent, and we also shared our video with members of the media this morning. It's available from DCPI now to continue sharing. All right.
And Commissioner, let me just add on to that. When we and Carlos, you can chime in if you want. But when we took action on NYU, when we received NYU's letter that they wanted to declare their encampment, when I tell you my own personal opinion is that the press kind of got in the way of our operation. There was hundreds of views getting in the way of officers as they were trying to make arrests. Okay, well, I'm saying it was more than 50, and we got video to prove that. So thank you, Commissioner Shepard, for getting the press together so we can know where the press is at, and that we don't confuse them with the students or protesters. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. So My question is twofold. I want to know about the individuals who are in training who made these makeshift weapons, who have the pamphlets and all of that. Is that one certain group? Would you call this a new breed of homegrown terrorists that we should be worried about here in New York City if you're tracking them across America? And then my second question is about that impressive tactic of going into the building on that Bearcat that was dramatic and impressive to see. Was there something about the timing of when you did that? Can you paint a picture of what was going inside, what you could see on the drones? With those makeshift weapons, was violence imminent? And did you think at that point you have to go in?
Every click is a painting lighted up. Vivo.
On campus, and we have no evidence of any criminal wrongdoing on her part, but that's not somebody who I would want necessarily influencing my child if I were a parent of somebody at Columbia, or the individuals who are involved in doing some of this training and tactical awareness activity. These students don't come in the doors knowing how to barricade themselves behind barriers that they've created, right? These are all skills that are taught and learned, and that presents a problem. And so, this is not about policing ideas in any way, shape, or form. It is about recognizing when there is an actual public safety concern. And we mentioned this yesterday, but it's worth reiterating to the protesters themselves. If you're barricaded in a building and an emergency happens, there's a risk to you. So it's specific, and we have to be calibrated, but we also have to be open and honest about what we're seeing, and we're seeing a trajectory that concerns us. Oh, yeah, so some images of stuff that was recovered, and, there was the image on the bottom left was pretty widespread distribution in the initial weeks after October 7th, and when we saw a lot of big numbers of individuals in protests, which is just a map of locations that were focused on for protest activity. Imagery on the top right suggesting fomenting chaos and squatting as a tactic, which we've seen in protests previously, some zip ties and some what we would call a very rudimentary makeshift weapon. And I think the reason for all of the protective gear that you saw last night, and I don't want to speak for my colleagues who specialize in this, is to protect officers when you're going into a situation that you don't fully understand what might greet you on the other side of the door. So this is important, and it is not just a New York City issue. It's obviously not just a Columbia issue. We saw it spread to CCNY last night, but this is unfolding across the country and in Europe as well. So this is a challenge we're all going to be dealing with for some time.
So good morning, everyone. So it took carefully planning, especially with the chief of the department, Chief Madry, and also all the executive boards, chief members that in our department, to plan this tactics to enter this building. So as we saw, there was several areas where they were barricaded by several items, such as vending machines, chairs, tables, and so on. And as we enter, it was very difficult for us to get in and push our way through because they were throwing objects at us. So it was very difficult. So the amount that it took, but it was, we tactically had every team around the building to enter that building. So there was carefully planning.
Since we're on this topic, can we just go get TikTok of some of the planning? The response was enormous. And can we just maybe sort of how that played out, at what point did you decide to plan for this, and how all that came together?
And I'll speak to that. Thank you for just bringing that question to light. We really didn't plan for this. Remember, Hamilton Hall was just taken over recently, fairly recently, and we didn't get any requests from Columbia. As a matter of fact, I did a press conference around 11 o'clock yesterday. We did not have a request. So when I finally got to the office yesterday and we realized we had a request, we had to put a plan together fast, all right? But this is what we do. We're the best police department in the world for a reason, because we do have the ability to adapt, sit down. We brought all the thought leaders in the room, Chief of Special Operations Division, Chief of Emergency Service Unit, the Chief of Patrol, Chief of Transit, Chief of Housing. I had them all in the room because they have years and years, hundreds of years of experience in the room. And we had to figure out how we were going to deal with what was going on in the street, which was the first part of the plan, because we had to be able to move. We had to be able to bring the Bearcat in. All right, we had to make sure we had a clear passage for the buses. Once we had arrested individuals on the buses, there was a lot that went into it. Then we had to deal with the encampment, and then we had to deal with the building. We had to make sure we kept them separate. So the decision was made that Chief of Patrol would lead the strategy on the ground to deal with the encampment, while the Chief of Special Operations Division and the Chief of ESU would deal with the building. All that equipment you see is life-saving equipment, all right? It's not equipment to go out and hurt and attack people. That is life-saving equipment. When we have to save someone, that's the equipment that we use. In this case, we had to breach a building, a very difficult building, a building that we knew doors were fortified with vending machines, couches, metal chairs, and the students and the people who were in the building were also pushing against the building and throwing objects at ESU as they made entry, all right? For the first time in many years, we use distraction devices, something we haven't used in years. The only person in the department who's authorized to allow that is me. And before we sat down, I told the members of the ESU, try not to use them, but if we're under attack, and we have to do this not only to keep them safe, but to keep the students safe, we made a decision to use them, and that's what we did. And even prior to going to Columbia, we had to pivot because City College got violent, and we had to send some of the resources from Columbia to help deal with City College, come back down to Columbia, and then go back to City College. That we didn't plan for that, all right? But this is this department's ability to move and pivot as needed to keep people safe, and that's what we did yesterday.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing to that. We also had to secure 5 dorms of over 2,000 students to make sure they were safe, and we didn't give them the option to come out of the dorm for just that reason. So there was 2,000 additional kids on that campus that we secured. They didn't come out, and that's what added to the level of safety and success we had in this plan.
Okay, we're going to take 2 more questions. Tina Moore, New York Post.
Hi, Commissioner Weiner. To go back to the wife of the man convicted on terror charges, was she advising them, training them? Can you give us a little bit more on what she was doing there?
So her presence was last week. It was, before what we saw over the last couple of days. And, we haven't been in the encampment, so we don't have a lot of fidelity on exactly. And it isn't just her. There was a ton of people coming onto the campus, and Columbia University described in their letter that the college had become a magnet for people from the outside. And again, this isn't just something we're hearing from Columbia. It's something that other universities have told us as well. And they know their student population better than anybody. We know the people we know. They know their community. And so this is something we are all seeing independently, is external folks. And does this inherently mean that you're going to see the kind of escalatory tactics that we saw yesterday? It may or may not. But when we do see them, we understand that there's a risk.
All right, this will be our final question. Aaron Katersky.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks, guys, for doing this. I wondered, maybe for the Commissioner or the Mayor, if you could just say a little bit about, prior to the authorization letter arriving, what your conversations with Columbia were like that led up to it, and then what information you were sharing and what they were telling you, and then also just your expectations on presence going forward. How many officers remain on campus? It seems like you're authorized to be there through commencement. What's your expectation about what you're going to have to do in the next couple of weeks?
The Commissioner could talk about his conversations, but we have been having ongoing conversations with all of our universities. Once we picked up from our intelligence that there was a real desire to start taking over buildings and a desire to escalate what was happening already. And we spoke with the institutions and told them we're here. When you need us, we're going to pivot quickly. And I think it was clear from the combination of what Intel was able to share and the observations that the schools were making, that the decision was made. As Chief Madry stated, this was a last-minute call. When we did our press conference, we did not receive a letter at that time. But I think the escalation of taking over the Hamilton building, people saw the information that the Intel was supplying. But we have been in regular contact with the school leadership, not only the president, but part of their operation management, and we communicated with them, shared information with them. As we got it, we shared it with them. So we knew the balance of not going in without being invited unless there was imminent threat. We knew that balance, and I know the commissioner could share his conversations also with the leadership.
Yeah, pretty much the same conversations about students' right to protest peacefully, and obviously keeping every student, faculty, and staff safe at the schools. And I'll turn it over to Chief Department, who can talk about what we're going to do going forward as far as presence there at the schools.
Yep. Right after this, we're going to go out. We're going to do a assessment of the campus. We're going to make sure we speak with the campus officials, and then we're going to make a determination what kind of resources that we're going to put there. Our resources are there to support the university staff, the public safety on campus, the teachers, the faculty members on campus, just to make sure that the environment is safe. So that's what our goal is going forward. We're going to see how we can assist them, make a determination how many officers will be needed to do that, so that the campus, the faculty, public safety, the teachers, the leadership, they can function and get through commencement.
So there'll be an NYPD.
The campus is secure as we speak, and we'll do a reassessment like Chief Maggi just mentioned.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention. Thank you.
Raise your hand.
Katie, come grab us. It's not a fight club.